Charles, can you hear us okay?
Can't hear you now again.
And here, I'm going to read that again then for your benefit. It says, be it resolved that Wayne Wiggins be appointed as member of Bancroft Town Council for the remainder of the 2022 to 2026 municipal election term to fill the council position from the resignation of Mary Kavanaugh. I have a mover and a seconder on that one, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Barry McGibbon. All in favor, please. I'll pass. Thank you. So, Councillor Wiggins, we invite you up to the table now to receive the declaration of oath from our clerk.
Two documents. So the first one's declaration of qualifications. So if you're signing it that you read it, you read all the qualifications that you can start the town bankrupt. Okay. You can put it over there as a signature one for you. Okay, declaration of office. You're repeating me.
Okay.
I, Wayne Wiggins,
I, Wayne Wiggins,
have been appointed to the office of councillor.
have been appointed to the council officer.
Office of councillor.
I'm changing my mind now.
For the town of Bancroft.
For the town of Bancroft,
Do solemnly promise and declare that
solemnly promise and declare that
I will truly,
I will faithfully and impartially exercise
this office to the best of my knowledge and ability.
this office to the best of my knowledge and ability.
I have not received and will not receive
I have not received and will not receive
any reward
any payment or reward
or promise thereof
or promise thereof
for the exercise of this office
for the exercise of this office,
any biased, corrupt, or any improper manner.
any bias or corrupt in any manner.
I will
Disclose
disclose any pecuniary,
any pecuniary interest,
direct or indirect,
direct or indirect,
in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act.
in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act.
I will be faithful and bear
Faithful and bear
true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III.
to His Majesty,
Bear true allegiance.
bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III.
And I make this solemn promise,
I make this solemn
declaration,
declaration,
conscientiously believing it to be true,
conscientiously believing it to be true,
and knowing that it is of the same
knowing that it is the same
force and effect as if made under oath.
force of effect in the world.
And that was declared before me at the town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, the 28th day of September. And I will have you sign.
Yep. Well, thank you.
We have a seat here for you.
Yep.
I think you should be on screen when you sit down
Sit
there.
here.
Yes.
So these are monitors. All they do is just match your key.
Okay.
I'm just gonna hit one button for you.
Okay.
Okay, we're
So he's gonna show us the Bancroft Community Safety and Key. Showing here and here. How do I flip the camera? Yeah.
Jennifer.
How do I turn? Just on the right side if you tap the screen.
Have I broken already?
There you go.
There I am.
So welcome, Councillor Wiggins. I don't know if you have any words that you would like to say at this time. Thank you, that's very well, good of you.
I know you cut me off, but before I do want to thank the council for putting the faith in me move forward. Been here before, I thoroughly enjoy it. It's all about working for our constituents and doing the best we can. And doing the best we can financially and morally for all our constituents. So I'm glad to sit here. I would be remiss if I didn't wish Mary Kavanaugh the best in her future endeavors. I'm glad I got the seat and not at her cost. So I'll talk to Mary personally on it. I can pass that along also. Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing on with the agenda under item 13 business, item A, DM Will sole sourcing. Resolution before us is resolved that the council by approve of the single sourcing to DM Wills to complete the work required to meet compliance requirements of the NTO for the described connecting link intersection. And further, that council hereby authorize the general manager to engage with DM Wills to update their existing drawings and as-built for this intersection. And further, that council does hereby authorize the general manager to engage with DM Wills to provide costing for the construction work required to satisfy the 1 to 5 year reconstruction requirement of the NTO. And further, that council does hereby authorize staff to act as required to complete an application for connecting link intake number 9 funding, currently open with submissions required by mid-November. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that? Councillor Miles, seconded by Councillor Tracy McGibbon. So for everybody who is not aware of this, this is with respect to the intersection of Highway 28 in Valley View. Is it called Monk Street at that point? Monk Street is part of the connecting link. When we did the reconstruction there, was it 3 years ago? I can't remember.
2020, I believe.
That would be 3.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
3 years ago. At that point in time, well, after the construction was underway, we embarked to put in a left turn lane with an advanced green light, only to subsequently find that it did not meet the requirements of the MTO. I'm going to let Andre speak on this in a second. There's only one point of clarification that I needed. I think I'll let you speak first.
So for the past year, staff have been working with the MTO to basically resolve an outstanding design drawing from the original construction back in 2019-2020. It's called the PHM 125, but basically it's the formal final approved construction and design of the intersection. What we have at the intersection right now does not comply to the MTO's requirements for an intersection, and as such, they ordered us to studies and some reports and review drawings and basically ensure that the intersection does meet the MTO intersection guidelines with regard to connecting link. That includes things like where the traffic head is in relation to the moving lane of traffic, includes things like the width of lanes, of passing lanes, of shoulder lanes, ensuring that if there's a straight through lane, that it goes straight through and doesn't kind of swerve through an intersection, that it's an unobscured straight line. So in several of those things, the current design is not compliant and we don't have a valid MTO approval. So with the assistance of DM Mills, who were the original contractors who did the work at that intersection, before we added the straight through lane, we have been working to try to resolve things with the ministry. We recently completed a traffic study in July, which shows that the traffic flows through that intersection are more than double what they were when the original design plan for that intersection came into play, which is a big reason that we have the long traffic delays and lineups that we've had. There are some challenges with that intersection. One of the challenges is that either side of that intersection has a environmentally protected wetland area, which is also fish habitat. So doing any work in that area is difficult at best without disturbing that habitat and requires some consideration as well. The original design only warranted 2 lanes of traffic with a regular traffic head, with a regular 3-light traffic head. The new numbers confirm that there is warrant to having an advanced left turn to try to clear the queue that accumulates as you're coming down the hill from the Peterborough side coming into Bancroft. That is an acceptable approach and is the one that we've proposed we do with the least immediate financial impact to the town.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I'm just lost. So the initiative you're talking about what we have to do right now?
Yeah.
Which is again?
Which is to return to 1 lane of traffic down the road,
right, okay.
but to put an advanced left signal at the bottom of the hill to allow the traffic queue to clear
so that folks who are turning into Valley View Drive have an opportunity to clear that queue of backed up
Two
traffic.
lanes down?
No, there would just be one coming down the hill with a long advance left.
Would there not then be a shoulder on the, if we go down to one lane, we'd be left with a shoulder?
There would be a big shoulder, yes.
And I believe under the highway traffic, it is legal to, maybe we probably have to
That's on the
clarify,
right-hand side, yes.
as long as it's paved to go around on the other side.
I don't know that for certain, but I've definitely been passed on the right on a paved shoulder in the past, so.
Yeah, I think it must be paved to do that. But anyway, something we need to clarify.
So the proposal is that we would remove the 3 headlight that's there right now, just the green, yellow stop, and change it to a green, yellow, or red, yellow, green advance with a long advance, which we would time for the season. So there wouldn't be a long advance in the middle of winter where there may not be a queue there. It would just be a regular advance green. But we may time it so that it's a couple minutes of an advance on a long weekend to ensure that that queue is cleared more effectively. That does satisfy the MTO's conditions, at least based on our conversations. We've submitted that formally to them for approval at this point to ensure that that would satisfy the approvals and make us compliant with them again. Assuming that it does, it would satisfy them for a period of 1 to 5 years only. Our traffic numbers are increasing significantly as this count shows, and we're right on the edge of the acceptable service standard with that advance left based on the number of vehicles that are traveling through that intersection at that time. So what that would mean is that in the next 1 to 5 year window, we would need to do some additional work at that intersection to basically just adjust where the lanes are a little bit, shift things a bit to have those straight lines, ensure that the pavement that's there is the appropriate thickness for highway traffic. Right now, there's only a single lift of pavement on the shoulder, which is typical of a shoulder. We would have to increase that to traffic depth pavement, which I believe is 2 lifts, and ensure that it was properly marked and aligned with the intersection. The folks at MTO pointed out for us that connecting link 9 intake is open right now till mid-October. I'm proposing that we sole source the immediate repair work to come into compliance, which the MTO requires before the snow flies, with DM Mills because they have the most information about the intersection already and can get that work done in time. And then my second part is that we sole source the design of the intersection for that 1 to 5 year window with them as well, because they already have and own all the designs. They've done all the wetland studies. They know the soil stuff. They've been involved with all these conversations, and basically they just need to do some minimal tweaks to the drawings that they already possess to satisfy the 1 to 5 year requirement, which we need to have in order to submit the connecting link application by November.
So the question, I'm assuming there is a feeling that within the existing land that we have room to do all this. We don't have to go into the
There
BP
is,
zone.
and you know, the MTO will verify that for us, but based on the preliminary measurements and site visits done by DM Mills and the traffic consultants, it does appear that there is enough room to reintroduce a proper straight through lane and align it appropriately so that it would meet the requirements of the MTO.
So just to be perfectly clear, this is an MTO requirement, not a town of Bancroft. And unfortunately, we will lose the separate left turn and through lane for the immediate future. And hopefully that we are successful with the connecting link application so we can go back to a slightly altered version of what we have right now. Yes, Councilor.
Again, I'll ask my first question if you're on. On the lead light, you're going to have an advanced left turn, left signal light arrow.
Yeah.
Can we, in our design, have where we can control that, I'll say on a daily basis? For example, at 2 o'clock in the morning, you don't need a long delay light or advanced light. However, at 4 in the afternoon from Thursday to Saturday, it would be desirable. So it's something that we can have them do it. The other thing is, I believe DM Wells were they not the engineers that designed that intersection to start with?
They were.
But
were?
they did not do the work to
No.
put in the left turn lane.
The
No,
straight
they
through.
did
Straight
not,
through.
but I would like to remind council on them that the intersection I felt was flawed from day one, and if they designed it, they won't.
Not really, because in the initial specifications, we did not have a request for a left turn lane from staff at the time to them. We as council came back after the project was underway, and it was through another firm that lane was put in. So what was designed in the first place was what was specified, and it was they only designed and built what was requested. And then there was a subsequent request to alter the intersection, which did not go back through them. It went to another firm.
And I agree with that, but at the same time, we, as a municipality, hire an engineer to design something. We're hiring them because we are not the experts. We expect them. So if they should have seen something there, should have, and brought it to our attention well before we got to this mess.
Yeah.
However, moving forward, we have to comply with the MPO.
Right. And I think there's a lot more background to as far as.
Yeah, I learned a lot about traffic counts during this, and they did do a traffic count to inform the original design of the intersection, and they added the normal MTO seasonal variances to the numbers. And what appears based on the newest traffic counts is that even if they took our traffic counts and added the normal seasonal variance, we have way more traffic than even the normal variance would be, and that wasn't accounted for in the original.
So I don't think we should have any illusions, even though we're going to have advanced green. This is going to cause significant traffic backups.
I mean,
Yeah, because you could have the advanced green go, well, who's to say the people that are at the front of the queue want to turn left? The people that want to turn left might be back in the queue and they'll miss the advanced green and sit.
especially emergency vehicle.
So-
I can pull up the report, but their math and their timing that they're proposing, like on a busy summer weekend, not a holiday weekend, but a busy normal summer weekend, which is when they did these counts, would have a queue of approximately 113 or 115 meters of traffic.
I think in an ideal world, we would have been allowed to leave it as it is with the intention of coming up with the plan. And maybe after we pass this motion here, if somebody wants to make that motion, and then we could see if there's any avenue to pursue that we leave the current setup while we apply for the Connecting Link funding. It seems to be, to me, that if we were going to get the Connecting Link funding to redo this anyway, to disrupt what it seems to be working right now for a period of time, and staff and, you know, the MTO folks are just looking at the MTO folks are looking at the guidelines and the regulations, et cetera. Yes.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. That was actually my question, because human nature says to me, nobody will stop using it anyways. I mean, unless we put a whole bunch of cones up there or
We're
something.
going to go around.
Really, people are just going to use it the way it is anyways. I'm assuming the MTO is not going to come up and put a bunch of cones directly across from the highway and stop traffic coming into town. So what is our liability to leaving it as is until we can make the changes? I also wondered, did the report from the MTO talk about traveling south? I mean, there's a wide range of traffic that just pulls onto the shoulder onto the right and turns in. They don't wait for, because we essentially have two lanes going like this. And then, we drew a line that said, come on over here. But over here, people just pull in anyways and turn. So is there an expectation that needs to be changed and altered according to the MTO as well?
The right turn lane coming from town, out of town, is a valid lane. It was in the original design, and it's a valid.
But will it get affected by the shifting
There's room in that intersection to shift.
at that side of the intersection?
Yeah, to me, for sure, the north side of it all has more space. I didn't even realize it was truly a turning lane. It almost just looked to me like it was pulling onto the shoulder. Okay, but yeah, the creek limits us on the other side, right? That's
Is that the issue of the creek? We're too close to the creek with the lane?
No, to go wider, to meet the requirements of a proper through lane, left turn lane and through lane, meet the proper requirements, the roadway at that side would have to be expanded. what I believe they've determined that is by shifting things around within the existing intersection, which means obviously if you're going going north, it'll move over towards the left. That we will be able to meet that, but it requires design work, as Andra has pointed out here, and the signal heads, and who knows if the overhangs and the lights are even in the right position or have to be moved.
It does seem to me though a reasonable fix, like say a bit more pavement, repaint some lines left and right, move them a little bit that way.
And that's
the
all
other
it's
way,
going to be ultimately.
It sounds like not much.
Yeah, well, it's always more than you expect,
But it's going to take some time.
Yeah, yeah.
It requires the application for the connecting link funding. And let's say in the meantime, if everything went well, and when's the deadline for October, November?
Before snow.
No, for the application.
Oh, the connecting link application is November.
If in a perfect world, we applied and we were granted and work could commence in the spring, then we might, because we're past the peak season.
Yeah.
Let's hope. So if we keep our fingers crossed and the stars align, we might be able to get this rectified in time for the rush next season.
And last question, where are we in the 1 to 5 year time frame? And we could give
We're
it.
toward the end of the 5-year, where this particular proposal will work. I mean, if we have no more traffic growth, then we're good for 3 or 4 years. If we have a little bit more traffic growth, then we're in year 5 of that 1 to 5 year expected window. Yeah, we're pretty much at the threshold of where this will work and still meet the performance. So the concern of the MTO is liability, and particularly liability because of the lane. So the way we have the lane painted, when you come downhill, you actually go into the intersection and then cross part of the intersection to get back into the driveway.
And I have observed that where people, when they do come down the hill, aren't sure where they are, and some go through that intersection straddling both the turn lane and the through lane. So you see the point.
And there is a curb in front of them and a light pole, so they have to go around. So it's an obstacle that is the risk. I would suggest that if there's a straight painted line and you choose to pass on the right and you do so unsafely, that's your liability and not the towns and the MTOs. I'm not a traffic expert, but that would be my guess as to the reason for having the solid lane identified that is straight through without obstructions.
Okay, is there any comments from anybody out there in Cyberland? Okay, not seeing any, so all in favor of the resolution before us, please. All in favor? Show of hands, please. So passed, thank you.
You want to make your motion?
No.
Okay. I think given the timeline involved, if the road works well, we could be rectified before the next peak season, so keep our fingers crossed.
I would also think MTO should give you a better date than when the snow comes.
It
could be January, it could be March, it could be November.
If you look at the,
November 1st is snow season for MTO purposes.
Okay.
That's when you have to start maintaining connecting link.
So that's the date they should put on, not snow comes.
okay, item B, tandem truck report. Be it resolved of the council, the corporation of town of Bancroft pays Winslow Girolami $300,819 plus applicable taxes from general ledger account 012050-2532. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Barry McGibbon and Councillor Deputy Mayor Mullen. So before we ask any of the financial questions, maybe Andrew, you could just give us a little background on what this tandem truck is, when we did order it, why we ordered it, and where we're at with the whole process. And yes.
So this was I believe, I always get the two trucks mixed up, but I'm relatively certain that this is the truck that we had planned to replace in our fleet.
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, we ordered this truck and made all the plans for it, and the direction or the recommendation of the treasurer and the public works manager at the time was that we would lease this truck when it was built and then look at buying it out at the end of the lease period. Subsequent to that, the following winter, we had another one of our trucks that was involved in an accident, and the truck was a write-off. So we have another truck coming to replace that truck as a result of that accident. One of those trucks will be mostly paid for through the insurance provisions of the truck, the second truck that was
Right,
involved in
so
the accident.
my understanding is we received the insurance money for the second truck, because I see when it's there.
Yes.
But we're going to use those funds to cover the cost of this truck. And when that other truck comes, we will have to go to other financial sources. So Wendland, tell me if I'm right or wrong.
You're right.
Hey! Yeah, so we've already received the money for the truck we lost in the accident.
Yes.
And that truck is on order, but this truck's coming first, so we're going to use those funds to cover this truck, and we'll be on our own to cover for when the next truck arrives.
Yes, in 2024, we'll look at options of financing for the new truck coming in the new year.
So we've been without all these trucks. What have we been doing?
Well, when we lost the truck to the accident, we purchased a used older truck to take its spot to get us through. That was 2 years ago now, or almost 3 years ago, or 2 full winter seasons. So our older trucks are now all 2 years older, as is that older used truck that we purchased. So it would seem initially that do we really need 2 new trucks, but we actually do, because our entire fleet is 2 years older than it was at the time we made this initial decision, and we would have been looking at purchasing another truck within a year or two anyway. So we're actually right where we would have been if we were looking at replacing equipment as we went along. We have managed through with the trucks we have, but there are no spare vehicles. If a truck breaks, there's a route that isn't going to be done in the
So
time
we will
to
keep
go.
the older trucks as spares? Is that the determined?
I believe Wendell is waving there.
Okay, Wendland, go for it.
So the resolution when we bought the 2 used trucks last year, that when this truck that's coming in October and the other truck that's coming in 2024, once they were received, they would automatically be surplused and sold, and then that money would go back into the reserve. So we're getting 1 truck in October. So one of the 2 used trucks would be automatically surplused, and council has already approved that.
So, but I would, playing the devil's advocate here, even though I probably voted for that, would question the fact that based on what the general manager says, we do not have the spare at this present time. So if we get a new truck and get rid of a truck, we still don't have a spare. So would we not be wise to look if there's benefit to retaining one of these 2 used trucks that we bought to have a spare? I just throw that out there for the conversation.
Yeah, so if council wishes that, I would have to defer to the clerk, because that was a motion, I believe, of the previous council and how that would be handled.
Yeah, so I would think, since I see the fire chief coming on here now, and we have a new manager of infrastructure and capital projects, I got that right, didn't I? Coming, that I think we should look at that decision again. And if they feel it's good, great. If they feel that there's merit in keeping a truck, I think it should come up for debate. So Chief Huber, I'm gonna give you the floor.
So currently, right now, until we actually get delivery of that new tandem, the other 2 single axles, the one is still on a primary route. So right now we only have the other single axle as a backup truck. We're currently, we would have the 3 tandems, and then when the new tandem comes, we would keep the old tandem as a backup for the big routes. And it's just the other little single axle that's currently sitting in the yard that would be our backup. So until we get over the hump of all our truck replacements, I would advise to hang on to them, because we still are running an aged fleet and we've put significant money into it. We might as well get some use out of it before we just turn them over again.
Councillor McGibbon, I believe you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to say that our 2005 will become our spare truck once the other two are delivered. And I think currently our spare truck is a 2001, so it's 22 or almost 23 years old. So
I believe our resolution that we passed before doesn't read this way, correct? Because I believe when you said that we were going to get rid of both trucks once we had both.
Yes,
So,
well, the agreement
think-
was back then when we purchased the two used trucks. That once the new ones came in, they would be automatically surplus. So we'd have to bring that back if council wants to change that, and we'd have to talk with Jen about that and how that would be handled.
So maybe we could have a recommendation from a council member to go back to re-examine that previous decision and resolution. Councillor Wiggins will move that, and Councillor Barry McGibbon will second that. All in favor, please? So we'll come back with a staff report at some point in time on that one, and in the meantime, we do not dispose of. Got it?
Part of that report would be the financial implications to do so.
Yeah. Yep, we would. So everybody clear on that? You're okay with that, Chief? Okay, thank you. I guess we need to, did we voted on the actual motion?
No.
Pardon me? I did get it, do it all in favor? Oh, you need no?
Just for your tandem, the original motion.
Oh, okay. So the original motion which stood was regarding the payment of the truck that's coming. All in favor, please? So pass, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So business arising from notice of motions, cemetery brought forth by Deputy Mayor Mullen. Draft resolution be it resolved, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby receive and file a presentation regarding cemeteries in the Town of Bancroft as provided by the clerk. Could I have a mover and a seconder on this, please? I would imagine Councillor Deputy Mayor Mullen, you will move that, and seconded by Councillor Barry McGibbon. So are we going to go through the presentation? But before we do that, Councillor Deputy Mayor, could you just explain your reasoning for bringing forth this particular motion?
Sure, gladly. And I think in the meantime that since I put this notice of motion in a month ago, I think there's been some things happening. For example, with our own cemetery, the Anglican Church Cemetery, that's across from Tim Hortons. I've had discussions with BAO, which is the Bereavement Authority of Ontario, and the lady that I spoke to with there said that back in 1993, the cemetery was given to the town of Bancroft, and nobody from the church knew that whatsoever. And I think some of these things that have been given, that the BEO, somebody gets a complaint and something hasn't happened, then they automatically give it to the municipality. So I think there's two, that Anglican Church Cemetery, and I think what Barry would call Nobbs Hill Cemetery. And my understanding is that the two wardens from the Anglican Church, St. John's Anglican Church, have I don't know if they have had discussion or the cemetery manager Kevin Fudge has had some discussion with town. I'm not sure, but I know there was going to be.
Just for clarification, did the church still believe it was theirs and that they were responsible for it?
That's correct.
Okay, so our clerk has some further information, and I think she can roll through this presentation. So let's turn it over to Kevin.
All right. So
Are you going to show yourself?
I'm going to put up our presentation,
Okay.
but just before we start that, our update. So I spoke with the BAO yesterday. I had a very long conversation with a lovely lady called Carrie, who does most of our BAO stuff. And Carrie and I determined that they ran a project that was for duplication, to get rid of duplicate cemetery sites that existed in the BAO's files. They had a very long project. They had a lot of duplicate files. This is one of them that they did not catch. So thankfully, and I've already talked to Kevin Fudge, who is the gentleman who is in charge of the cemetery board. So
So we have nothing to do with
We
that.
have nothing to do with it anymore. We're going to receive, or have not yet received, we're going to receive a notification from the BAO, which will say, we recognize the town is not responsible for it, and they'll ultimately take it off of our license. So that was the BAO's mistake in their records, that they believed that 2 persons owned and licensed the same cemetery site. So it will remain with Kevin and the rest of that board.
So Deputy Mayor, your resolution resulted in some very positive action already, so good for you.
And I'm just wondering, asking Barry McGibbon, have they had discussions with the BAO as well?
Not yet, no, but we're going to have to, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
I've been kind of waiting to see what the outcome of this was.
Well, when I spoke to the lady last week, and I was talking to her for, I guess a couple of hours. By the time we got things, each one of us found out what was going on. The communication way back then was almost non-existent. So anyway, I think it's gotten repaired, shall we say? And as far as I'm concerned, it's repaired now. And my concern was the other cemeteries that we do have are basically closed cemeteries, so there's no burials in them that I'm aware of.
So we'll let Jennifer go through the presentation and then just see what other questions we have after that.
Okay.
I expect lots.
Okay.
And I will, Barry, for your information, I have already sent an email off to, and I always say this for my brethren. Okay, so I have sent something off by email to Carrie for that as well, and they've got 2 people working on it. That one's a little bit more complicated, but I have a feeling it will result the same way. I just have to wait to hear back. So it's in the works. I'm trying to get rid of as many as I can. Okay, so cemeteries. We'll go through a brief, I'm going to try to give you just the high level overview of everything, and then when you have questions, feel free to jump in, ask whatever you like. So we'll do governance, transfer by mutual consent, which is the mechanism that they use to transfer cemeteries. Funds and fees, what we do own, keeping in mind that this just changed, and I still have not yet received the final confirmation that we do not have St. Paul's. So that is still listed in this presentation. Next steps and what happens. The governance starts as provincial legislature, as does most things, and then the BAO and the municipalities. So there is legislature in place for funerals, burials, cremation services, how those are handled, what the requirements are of everyone who has. Most of those have been delegated down to the BAO. So the BAO is the overarching that we respond to. So anything that comes out of any issue with a cemetery will come directly from the BAO. And those are the folks that we will almost exclusively talk to. Municipalities, once we receive something from the BAO, we're responsible for maintenance, for grass cutting, for safety of stones, for registries, for the registration of all the headstones, all the financial compliance and the audit requirements, and then of course our regular auditor who goes through all of our files. Responsibilities. So Bereavement Authority of Ontario is established as a delegated administrative authority, which essentially just means that they oversee the entire bereavement sector of Ontario, all the license inspections, care maintenance, funds, and enforcement, and we are obligated to provide them any specific information that they request. Keeping in mind that a lot of our records come from individual cemetery owners who are not perfect, they're human. They don't always have all the records, and we don't always have all the paperwork.
So even though we don't own it, we still have to provide them with information if they request
Only
it?
when we license, so it's just the licensees. So if we are a licensed operator of the cemetery,
Right.
then yes.
Okay,
then
so we're not responsible for providing
not
information.
for
on
anyone
what-
else.
Okay.
However, if those people's duties fill and it gets abandoned, which I'll show you the transfer mutual consent, then it comes to us and we are responsible. Abandoned cemeteries. In general, the registrar of province and cemetery owner can apply to the Superior Court of Justice to declare a cemetery abandoned. They only do that if we can't figure out who the owner is, which does happen all the time, and we actually have one of those. If someone is unable to maintain the cemetery, so generally it's older folks who look after cemeteries in our area. It's a rural group, it's a lot of older people. pass, or if they no longer have the ability to look after a cemetery, someone has to. Or if they're not a licensed operator, there's no licensed operator listed for a cemetery. So there's a lot of family settlement cemeteries that get discovered and then added to the list, and then they have to give it to someone. When it's declared abandoned, the municipality becomes a cemetery owner, which means that we take all of the assets. We own the property, we own the care and maintenance fund, we have all of the obligations, and we have all of the records.
So.
Don't get excited.
I was gonna say, if the cemetery is part of another parcel of land, it means we don't get the whole thing?
We survey and we take just the portion that relates to the cemetery.
That's why you're talking about this.
Yeah,
And there is no money in care and maintenance funds generally speaking.
there's always some exceptions. I mean, it's a judge's rule what we take, but
So do we have to pay for the survey as well?
we do. So we pay for essentially everything. We take the land survey, and there is, I mean, a judge can rule otherwise if they want to, but in general, they don't.
Okay.
I would say very unlikely. So we pay the cost of all the proceedings, and if it's a cemetery not located in the municipality that for some reason provide us or the products looking for it.
Good.
Transfer by mutual consent. Do we have to go to court for a transfer? No, we don't. It's a very simple process. Essentially, they call me or send me an email and they say, hey, these folks don't want their cemetery anymore. Your two options are you can do a transfer of mutual consent, which is a nice piece of paper that says we'll take it. And if we don't, then they apply to court. We have to pay the court fees. We fail the proceedings. We only have 5 days to do that. It's a very short window for everything. And there's really no purpose in us spending the extra money when we know it's going to get ruled and given to us anyway.
Okay.
And then we also start the process of taking over, actually physically going to the bank and doing the takeover of the funds, applying to get a survey done and all that stuff. I just thought this was really interesting. This came out in the research I was doing. So there's about 5,200 licensed operators. Of that, 386 municipalities are licensed to operate, over half. So there's a ton of municipalities managing a ton of cemeteries. We are definitely not alone, and I have a feeling that this will come to the council table as a support resolution at some point to start asking for help, because it really isn't, I don't want to say fair to the municipalities, but it's an extra download that we don't usually expect. And it's a significant cost. So funds and fees, there are some funds, not very much. Care and maintenance funds exist. They're taken when someone purchases a burial permit to receive a plot. We do have the sales of services, which is overarchingly run by the BAO. There are set policies and procedures for what you can charge. But all of those things really just go into care maintenance funds and only touch the interest. So that big box on the right-hand side that talks about what we are allowed to use money for is only the interest on that money. The interest amount is about 12 cents, between 12 cents and 62 cents a month from each care and maintenance. So it's not a lot of money to cut the grass.
Yeah.
And then Veterans Affairs Canada does handle the war graves. So as long as they have proof that someone is a war veteran, they maintain all the cemetery stones and they look after them. Still cut the grass or do the remainder of the remedial work for a cemetery, but at least the headstone is maintained by them. So the fees, legal fees, survey fees, grounds fees, wages fees, administrative staff time. Just this summer alone, my poor summer student probably spent, oh gosh, I don't even know, 100 hours working on cemetery files just to get one cemetery set of records put into our new system. And they've never been in a system before. So amount of time that it takes to get these records together, and it has to be available to any person in the public who comes to the office at any time. So we have a responsibility to make sure it's done properly. Yeah, it really isn't a promising thing when we talk about fees or funds for this. It's not something that we do any active burial permit selling at the moment. So there really isn't any other income coming in from this other than the interest. Fees in the cemeteries we have, so Lakeview, Egan Creek Anglican, which is the small portion next to the little white church that's left out there. And it's mixed. Some people call it Detler United, some people call it Grace United. It's both. St. John's, which I'm hoping to remove from this list, and then Brethren Assembly, which we'll see if can be removed from the list. We also have an abandoned cemetery, which was provided to us very vaguely by the BAO. So all they gave us was a lot concession, which doesn't really relate to anything, and it's in the middle of hundreds of acres of farmland. So they don't know where it is. We don't know where it is. We just report a 0 on it every year because the town has not done anything in it, but it really isn't anything for us. And I don't anticipate that we'll find it. So the next steps. So I have collected all the surveys that currently exist for the properties that we own. I believe we'll still have to do 2 surveys. That's going to take hiring a surveyor, which will have to come to council. We'll have to ask for permission to go ahead with that. It won't be this year. I anticipate probably building it into the budget for next year. Finishing the transfers. So we have a number of issues when it comes to transferring bank accounts, partially because some of these folks have passed entirely or haven't had a land transfer since the 1800s, which means we would have to petition court in order to receive the land transfer. It's messy, but it happens a lot. There are lots of municipalities going through it, even in our own zone, so it's not unexpected. Update and maintain computer systems, so hopefully digitization of records, and then a bylaw update. So for all of our cemeteries, we're required to have a bylaw. I'm working with the BAO to create using their sample, and then each cemetery that falls under us has its own appendix for if there's any separate or different ones. But that's very straightforward. It's just a long process because it has to come to council, be preliminary approved, goes to BAO approves it, then it comes back, then we gotta post it. It's a whole notice period, and then it can finally be done. So it's usually, I would say, probably about 3 or 4 months before everything's all said and done for that. Cemetery bylaws, this is just a general so that you know what'll be in it when you see it. So just talks about hours of operation, what you allow there, whether or not you allow people to plant flowers or to tend during the day or go after dark, that sort of thing. And then just to quick, those are all the things that we have to do when we come to draft.
Any more good news?
Just the last. So for now, we hold 6. We're working on doing the transition. We have improved the data in the files, which is great. We are getting somewhere with it. The BAO has finally seen compliance from us for the first time in a very long time. So we've submitted our reports on time. They're happy with us. We're actively communicating.
So we have 6, but really 5.
Yes. Well,
And
actually,
maybe 4.
And the one abandoned. So really more like
Maybe.
really more, which is great. Unfortunately, we absorb the cost with little income, but there's not a lot that we can do about that. And then we expect us to see some more cemetery stuff at the council table in the next couple of months.
How and why did we start having this conversation?
Well, to the credit of the deputy mayor, he took this on, he brought it forth as a notice of motion. And through that, we discovered the duplication of the one, so that'll go off our books. So,
Great.
yeah, it was one of those things, I guess it's just there that we never really dove into. So again,
And does now sort of poking the bear, talking to the BAO?
no, I think it's probably been better.
It has. Honestly, I've had some really good conversations. Happy because they haven't had a lot of conversation from our side. So now they know what's going on and we know what's expected of us, so we can start being 100% compliant.
Because that's where we essentially were non-compliant proceeding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and through this again, we have discovered that, you know, we're on the record for one that we're not on the record for now.
That's a good thing.
It's
Yeah,
a file, it's a long process, but it's good.
Right.
So.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Can we go back to the regular screen?
You go back to full screen.
Yeah, that's right. All of them.
There we are, thank you.
So again, thank you, Charles, that was great. You get that one.
It's interesting.
Barry, go ahead.
So I saw on that presentation, the Brethren Cemetery is actually called Nobbs Cemetery. And so my family, I'll be the 4th generation to look after that, but I see it is in the town's name or under the town. So do we need to rectify that sooner than later, or how do we?
Yeah, so that's what I've been working with the BAO on. So Carrie is aware that that is an issue. And I've got to wait to find out from them and their higher ups exactly what's happened and why it was given to us. And then we.
Yeah, okay. Because my mom has all the documentations, all the certifications, and it's still an active cemetery, so.
So if I may say on that, Barry, if you're going to keep it an active cemetery, which I'm assuming you want, you'll need bylaws and all of that stuff, and it's far easier to operate on your own than have the town operate it.
Yeah.
And so if you need some help with that, let me know.
It's been pretty simple up to this point, and it's been affordable. So I imagine if the town takes it over, it'll get quite costly for plots and whatnot.
It's going to get costly no matter who takes it over.
So the cost is
Yeah.
is regular.
And maybe.
Yeah.
The cost is regulated by the BAO, so it's not something that will, like, the town certainly can't skyrocket cost on anything because it's.
No, but there still would be a cost.
But
There would be.
But the cost for a plot, the cost for a plot is set by the cemetery board, not by the BAO. So the BAO would approve your cemetery bylaws and price list, and it's like each cemetery has their own price list.
Yeah, we have bylaws and we have our price, but our price is basically free.
Yeah. And I rather doubt if you're putting anything in a bank account saving money for care maintenance, because if you're selling a lot for $150, the BAO tells you have to put 40% of whatever the sale price is in a care and maintenance account, which you can't spend. All you can do is get the interest. So yeah, you've got some work ahead of you.
Yeah, exciting.
Yep.
So from an admin perspective, I think one of the things that we really want you to take away from this, we're going to start budget deliberations in the next month or two. We have 3 cemeteries for sure, and possibly 4 if they don't let us give back the Brethren one, that we will be required to maintain. That means cut the grass, paint the fences, weed around all the stones, keep the gravel driveways paved and or not paved, but graded and clean. If there are buildings, we're responsible for the care and maintenance of the building. That's the one that we're currently working on, with the one that we've had for many years because the building is falling down.
Where's that Lakeview?
Yes.
So in that particular case, we always have building use for it.
Nothing. It's boarded. It's falling down. It's
So can we demolish it?
We can't. That's one where we started the petition process to have a judge vested in our interest, because the last known owner was in 1880 something or other, and was, the faithful servants of God. There isn't even a name on it that we can.
So this is almost like Connecting Link, where we have to pay. We have to pay.
Well.
Just kind of a connecting link, right?
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So the point there is that right now we have 2 roads workers in a lead, or 2 parks people in a lead, and they currently really have only knew about Lakeview, and that's what we've been maintaining to this point, and they spend the equivalent of a day a week all summer long from May to September looking after Lakeview. So now we know we have to add a couple of more that are sizable cemeteries, and hopefully not a 4th one. So there's a significant implication there for staffing and time to be able to meet the requirements we have. And that's not something that we'll have the luxury of 2 or 3 years of figuring out how we're going to get that done. We have an immediate responsibility to ensure that level of service required by the VA is met. So.
Thank you. So I'll just read the resolution again. It's on the floor. Be resolved, the Council Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby receive and file a presentation of various cemeteries in the Town of Bancroft provided by the clerk. All in favor, please? So passed. Thank you. Item 15, notice of motion none. 16, bylaws, first, second, and third reading. Be resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time be finally passed, and the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same in a rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw 65/2023, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Bylaw 66/2023, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Bylaw 67/2023, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Bylaw 68/2023, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Bylaw 69/2023, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Bylaw 70/2023, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. And bylaw 71/2023, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Could I have a mover and a seconder on those bylaws, please? Moved by Councillor Wiggins, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any questions on any of those? Seeing none, all in favor, please. So passed. I guess we're going to confirming bylaw now. Okay, confirming bylaw, first, second, and third reading. Be it resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting of council held on 28th September 2023 be hereby given a first, second, and third reading and be finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered bylaw 72/2023. Can I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Eastman and Councillor Barry McGibbon, all in favor, please? So passed. Thank you. Next meeting date is scheduled for October 10th at 3 p.m. and a motion to adjourn. Councillor Wade.